I got a little bit of an insurance policy here. I was keeping track of the time, and they were shy about 25 minutes. And I don't know whether they gave me those minutes, Ryan, or whether I still have stuff. But no, this insurance policy means I'll only talk about the things on this piece of paper, and I won't start telling more stories. And I can tell a few. Ryan said they knew how to run the high-low offense. He didn't say anything about defense. We had to score a lot of points then, but no, it's particularly a pleasure to be introduced by Ryan and to have him in this position on this day. And I'd be remiss if I didn't repeat whatever Coach said so far. I do want to thank the association for this honor. It truly is an honor. Several coaches have said it so well that I don't need to put more words into it, but to do something like this, to get recognized for something like this, that you feel like you worked hard for, but that you really enjoyed, it's a true honor. Also to be inducted into this association I haven't really crossed the paths with too many of the coaches here in front of me right now. A couple, three or four. And yes, the story about Southeast Missouri did come home hard when I heard those stories, because when we went to the Scott County Invitational those 5 years, and then 2 times in the quarterfinals. I remember Scott County very well. But like I always said, and I meant it when I said it, is if you're not the best team there, you're not going to win. You know, if you come in second to Scott County on those days, you weren't too bad a ball team. And I want to congratulate all the inductees too. And I know I'm repeating what was very well said again, but to the wives and to the families of the inductees. I do want to acknowledge that my family is here, my wife Gail of almost 45 years, over there by that light, by the 5 grandkids that aren't making any noise right now. They're 7, 6, 5, 4, and 1. My son Jason, middle school principal at Ellsbury, Teresa, his wife. There's Julie, my daughter at Columbia, played for Coach Ed Lindsay, who's in the Hall of Fame, and a Clopton coach that we hired to be my first assistant coach. As a matter of fact, I think after he got there and was around me 3 or 4 days, he backed out of the job and took a junior high job with coach softball, and then he became a very, very good coach in high school, girls basketball club in high school. And I left the rest of my family off. My brother David is here with his family, and I appreciate you being here. And I leave Tom off, my son-in-law Tom, and I appreciate you all being here. You know, I do want to, I don't know the person has to explain why they just coached 16 years. I could have coached forever. I never quit liking it. And I never quit being an advocate for high school athletics and high school basketball. I was an advocate forever. I'm an advocate today. But I did coach 16 years. This honor is unexpected. It really surprised me because I too felt like that you had to coach a few more years than that. I enjoyed the years that I did coach, but about after 7 years, a good friend, my high school principal at the time, Calvin Allwood, became ill and died of cancer. The job opened up. We had 20 or 30 applicants. I thought I was the best person for the job. I went to Clopton. I wanted to stay at Clopton. I told them I wanted to, and it was kind of a dilemma. I remember 2 or 3 of the board members came to me and they said, we want to consider you for the job. We want you to keep coaching. Well, that's what I wanted to hear because I wasn't ready to quit. And I did coach 9 more years, and you do have to be a little bit crazy to be a high school principal and a coach at the same time. I know the people in this room that have done it. I know one back there was crazy, doing it right now. Oh, and I didn't mention Larry Logman, who is the high school principal at Clopton right now, a former player of mine, his wife Susan, and I appreciate you being here. But it's a tough go, and I took a great deal of pride in doing both jobs until I finally just got to the point where I met myself coming around the corner, and I said after however many years that was, that my family likes to eat, and the salary is about twice as much, And so we hired another coach, and I became the high school principal and finished my career at Clopton. You know, when you talk a few minutes, one of the things you think about it are the hundreds and hundreds, and literally hundreds of people. And they're not all players, teachers that you work with, people in the community, great parents that you work with. And you just don't have time. I mean, you can't, you're afraid to mention a name because you're afraid then you're going to leave somebody out. So I have chosen not to use lots of names, although I will mention a couple here in a minute. I do want to say a little something about the experience at Clopton. I moved to Clopton in 1961. I was in the 8th grade. Just take me a second. Bob Willow was my coach. And he coached in the 60s, and I coached in the 70s and coached in the 80s. And we had a tremendous program. I was interviewed by a newspaper man. I told him to hold the thing until next week. And he said to me, he said, lost my train of thought there for a minute, but he wanted to know if basketball was tougher now than it was in the 60s and 70s and back when you coached. And I said, nah, I don't think so. And you know, I said, I want to be careful now. I want to be careful not to put down anybody's program because I believe in high school athletics. I believe in the basketball programs we have now. I believe we deal with problems that we didn't deal with then. But we had a tremendous program, and Ryan halfway explained that situation right there. They should have arrested us for the crowds we had in the gymnasiums we had at the time. We had double the crowds that should have been in some of our ball games. They were in the ag room, in the math room, watching on closed circuit TV toward the end of my career anyway. And it was the only show in town. And I do want to go back to Bob Willow. I didn't mention him. I know he's not being inducted, but he is in the Hall of Fame. Tremendous coach. We won 69 consecutive games in the East Missouri Conference, which is an extremely tough conference in Northeast Missouri. I feel like he revolutionized basketball, and I learned about everything I know about basketball from him and from a few people that he rubbed shoulders with. You know, I could name the names. Some of the people are in the Hall of Fame, and some of those great coaches that did what you said so well a while ago. They're not there, but they did just as good a job and touched as many people as we did. Names are really what are important to me. Oh, I know what my train of thought was a while ago. The guy asked me, he said, can you remember any special one game? I said, you know, I can think of a lot of them, but it's not games. It's not those things I remember as much as it is the people that I dealt with. It's the people. Somebody asked me, what's the best team you ever had? I don't want to answer that question. Who's the best player you ever had? Well, I certainly don't want to answer that question. But I know during the times that I was coaching, all these people, I think of them all the time, and I have good thoughts. The 12th man on the team was often as important to me as the person who started. And I know that sounds like you don't believe it, but I really, truly believe that. People that I feel like I do need to mention, my wife Gail. At Gail, I'm not copying these other guys. I was going to say that anyway. Tremendous support. Assistant coach Mike McCrory and Ron Hamlet were two of the most supportive assistant coaches you could ever want to have. A fellow administrator during those 9 years where I did both, Dallas Singer. I don't know how many of you know him. I mean, he should be up here with me. Bob Frank was our AD for all those years. But it's people, and when I think of people, I think of players. And when I think of players, I look out and I see Ryan, and I see Larry, and I see Jason. Julie was with me, and Susan. I didn't coach girls, so I They'll run me out of town if I coach girls. But they can represent the players that I'm talking about because I have a vivid memory of every one of them. I know where most of them live, and it was a tremendous experience and one that I'll never forget. You know, one of the things that I do enjoy the most right now is after all these years, you go to neighboring towns, Bowling Green, Montgomery City, Warrenton, all the East Missouri towns, and some of those aren't in the East Missouri Conference anymore. You'll run into some guy who's 45 or 50 years old. He'll say, "Coach Miller, how you doing?" I usually stop and say, "Wait a minute, who are you?" And he'll tell me, and then we'll start talking. But, you know, they still call you coach after all those years, and, you know, that's a compliment. In closing, the career that I had and the career that you guys had was a tremendous opportunity for all of us. And I appreciate that opportunity so much. In my situation, unlike, who knows what path your life is going to take. I stayed at one place. They didn't run me out of town. I stayed there for a long time. I tried to make the little corner that I worked in. Success to me was trying to make that place a better place to be. And I did the best I can do. And it's a great honor today for me to receive this recognition for doing what I love to do. Thank you very much.